What is going on, everybody? Another edition of Off the Top Rope. We're coming out of AEW having a pay per view, and I was very critical of that. And there's some decent level of excitement going into Survivor Series. Probably going to be close, if not over 40,000 people at Petco Park, home of the San Diego Padres, a baseball stadium in San Diego. Um, and I know there's going to be some smartasses in the comments who are going to be, well, yeah, Mike, what are you talking about? WWE's doing fine. But if you look at the topic of this video, I think WWE has gotten creatively lazy. And I'm not going to invoke the years 2018, 2019 quite yet, but I'm getting some vibes that I kind of was getting back then. Because Monday on Raw, for a go-home show with two War Games matches loaded with stars, but not very much story, and then you had one of the most Vince McMahon trope segments that I've ever seen with John Cena, although I will admit the subtle nice touch of having Mini Stu in the Dominic Mysterio because they couldn't have John Cena for an appearance. So they said, hey, let's just bring out John Cena as a little person, and let's do that. Granted, they did do that 20 years ago with John Cena in his feud with Kurt Angle, and there's been some stuff that's happened over the years, and it's somewhat of a throwback, and, we haven't seen it very much. But for this company, and this has been a problem for me for most of this year, and obviously there will be a lot of reflection when we get to the end of John Cena's retirement run and we get to the end of 2025. To me, since Triple H took over in July of 2022, this is the worst year creatively that WWE has had. And it's almost like once they signed the Netflix deal, and once they got all of this money and, the Saudis gave them all of this money, it's almost like they're not trying. And they occasionally will bring forward a good episode of television. They had a couple of decent ones recently. Raw, Madison Square Garden, and then SmackDown this past Friday was actually pretty good. But if you read the SmackDown results, because they've already recorded that, it's not good. This tournament that they've done for John Cena, which is really the final thing that they're going to do for him before he goes to determine his final opponent, has been an unmitigated disaster. Like, this has been I said epic fail. It has been upgraded to a category 9 unmitigated disaster. Like, this is a fucking catastrophe. Penta doing a Hurricane Rana off the apron, screws it up his shoulder, can't finish the match with Solo Sikoa. So Solo Sikoa is now facing Gunther. Who the hell asked for that match? Gunther, I understand that he was probably the favorite going in. Carmelo Hayes loses to him. Javon Evans has lost him. You were probably going to have Penta lose to him. Look, the problem with that tournament, and, by extension, is just like there's been no creativity and there's been no adventurousness within anything that WWE has done this year. Everything's been very formulaic. Even the John Cena tournament, or even the John Cena retirement run, has been very basic. And the most exciting elements that we've gotten has been when he went back to being a babyface. And maybe the best thing that they did all year wasn't even planned. The best thing they did all year was they had John Cena face AJ Styles in Australia. And you can't convince me that that wasn't something that was on the books. There was no plan for it. Because if they did have a plan for it, they would have did it in France. Like, all of this has been so... Randy Orton in St. Louis, Jey Uso in a tag match, and Logan Paul. You have Logan Paul involved with a couple pieces of this retirement run. Cody Rhodes gets 2 matches. The second match way better than the first. CM Punk has to wrestle him in Saudi Arabia, and we haven't heard CM Punk wrestle him again, even though I think CM Punk might be his best opponent. And then at the end of it all, probably your best heel, which is Gunther, you're going to have him be the one to retire him after he retired a guy earlier this year. Like this, I could write this type of shit. And I'm just an idiot who covers this in my basement. And I understand that people in the comments are going to be like, Mike, you're being way too hard. They're making all this money and, this, that, and the other. Guys, just because you're making all of this money and you have record gate numbers. I mean, even though some of the ticket numbers have gone down, because I'm not going to be an AEW person, they're still doing way better than AEW. But I just feel like this company has gotten so fucking complacent and doesn't really care. And then you add on the fact that TKO has jacked up ticket prices way more, and it's like an arm and a leg. Like I think the lowest ticket price to go see John Cena's final match is for like $500. I understand it's almost like a WrestleMania ticket, but even WrestleMania tickets were reasonably priced before TKO got there. And it was easy to overlook it because Triple H felt like a different booker than Vince McMahon. But hey, Brock Lesnar's back. You've got you got formulaic main events, and you got the same things being rehashed over time. You've got very predictable outcomes, nothing adventurous, nothing out there that's really surprising. Everything feels very obvious. And then when you have like these war games matches that should be entailing war and stuff, there's no emphasis on story whatsoever. You've got three guys on the same team in the men's war games match that fucking hate each other, like that have main evented WrestleManias against each other. And yet we had the most basic segment to open up this show with Roman hinting at challenging for one of their championships. Ooh, I wonder what that is. But you could have explored more into the why of why we're in these matches. Same thing with the women. I don't know what the fuck half the women are doing in that match, because there's stars there. And I understand why Charlotte and Alexa are in there. Nia Jax has been kind of a decent cog for the women's division, and Lash Legends a future piece, but Lash and Nia don't belong in there. Hell, Charlotte and Alexa don't belong in there. Bayley and Lyra absolutely belong in that match. Raquel and Roxanne absolutely belong in this match. You would have had a better story to tell there, but they threw this thing together, and then they magically tossed in AJ Lee, which is admittedly very cool to see her back, and in her second match in 10 years back is in a War Games match going up against Becky Lynch. That's probably going to be a WrestleMania match. I could foresee that happening in some form or fashion, that this is just going to play out for another few months, and they're just going to play this out at WrestleMania, or maybe they'll do it at a big PLE next year. But, man, I just look at this show and I just look at WWE. I mean, SmackDown's been terrible. Just nothing on the main roster really feels adventurous or exciting. And you've got the John Cena tournament is completely blown up in their face, where no real exciting entrance. The two ones that you made, the two surprises, Matt Cardona and Nick Nemeth as their WWE names, they get eliminated immediately. And the rest of this tournament's predictable. You've got what it's probably going to be a Jey Uso. I'm guessing it's going to probably be some form of Jey Uso or LA Knight versus Gunther is what we're probably looking at. And like, I can't even believe the audacity of Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez to say, yeah, Solo was planned. Really? Yeah, it was an injury. And if it was planned, somebody in that writing room and somebody who's booking these shows needs to really reevaluate. And if Jey Uso and Gunther is the final of this fucking tournament, holy shit, man. Because listen, Gunther's going to win this tournament. I'd be shocked if anyone else did. And just how we got here is just very lazy. And the capper on top of this whole thing of like why, and really this is reflective of Raw, but it's what I've seen for most of the year, is when your show and the most talked about thing on your show is a complete and utter botch. And you guys know what I'm talking about. Brock Lesnar has been back since August. In 3 months, he's had two really just ridiculous botches. And on Monday night was one of the funniest things maybe I've ever seen in all my years of watching wrestling. It made people who don't even care about wrestling laugh. Brock Lesnar doing his famous, setting up his pyro and doing his, the whole Brock Lesnar. There's a guy, Brock Lesnar guy, who famously got filmed doing the famous Brock Lesnar thing. And he fell flat on his ass and rolled backward and roll over. When that's the most talked about thing on your show, by the way, Brock Lesnar in 3 months since coming back to SummerSlam, 3.5 months, guys ripped his pants and fallen flat on his ass. Maybe the universe is trying to tell us something. I don't know. You guys tell me. Like, I get it. There's still an energy, and there's nobody like him. But again, going back to this whole Raw thing and just going back to the way that this whole thing, when your go home show and the most high profile thing is something that happened in the last 2 minutes that wasn't supposed to happen and was just admittedly a hilarious botch, a viral clip that Brock played off like it was nothing, that's not good. And then something off air even got more play. Logan Paul getting his ass kicked by the four baby faces, by all the baby faces, and getting prime dumped on him. This is where we are in WWE. I get it. They're making a ton of money. I get it. That's not what this whole thing should be about. You shouldn't be taking your paying customers for a ride. When the content is good, more people are going to, but the further that this keeps going and they keep taking their audience for granted, next year, you're going to Saudi Arabia. The year after that, you're going to Saudi Arabia for a WrestleMania. So you got a major PLE Royal Rumble in Saudi Arabia next year. 2027, you're taking your biggest brand. And that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. This has not been a good year for WWE. Financially, maybe, but from a creative perspective, they have gotten complacent. They have gotten lazy. And this show on Monday was, honest to God, such a fucking letdown because you've got so many big stars put on the show, and it's almost like they just shut down creative for a day. I get it. There's a holiday this week, but holy shit, at least try. And I thought that we were going to get better. But now the ticket prices are up and creative is back to, circling the drain. It's not at Vince McMahon level, but I saw something that I would expect from Vince McMahon, not from this Triple H regime. For God's sake, I get it. Dom is a heel, but bringing out little people as John Cena in his final year, that's what you're doing to build a pay-per-view match? Really? And then the tournament that you built, no real surprises, no real chances taken. And now you've got the obvious finale, and you've had two injuries basically derail this. You've had two injuries derail this. Like Sheamus is out of this tournament. Solo advances on an injury by Penta. The whole thing is just a mess right now. So WWE needs to get their shit together going into 2026. Otherwise, this financial thing that they're really just riding the train off of, they're going to start losing interest, man. The best saving grace that they have is AEW sucks right now. Because if AEW was any better, they would have taken advantage of this by now, but they don't care either. Wrestling in 2025, I've said it before and I'll say it again, sucks. It sucks. So anyway, that's my thought here on Raw. I didn't get a chance to do it the other day. I'll see you guys soon. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.